Surrounded by a crowd of 600 excited, screaming fans and with eyewitness news cameras capturing every moment, Michael Jackson walked through Memorial City Mall last night, stopping in to do a bit of shopping. The pop star had actually come to Houston for a meeting with one of his attorneys to discuss some ongoing music contract issues, but he ended up making this surprise, unplanned visit to the mall as well, much to the delight and excitement of his devoted fans who happened to be there.
Well, they really go crazy. They're very happy to see you. As well as if they know you, and you have to respond back to them like you know them.
Right.
What'd you say?
I love you.
Love you.
How is it possible for one man to step into a room and, in just a matter of seconds, have full-grown adults dropping to their knees, sobbing, and left completely speechless? There was no magic involved here, and no clever trick behind it either. This was simply the reality of what took place. Time after time, over and over, whenever Michael Jackson made an appearance, it happened the same way. While most celebrities are met with cheers and applause, Michael Jackson triggered something that felt much more like a shock wave rushing through the crowd. People would faint before he even sang a single note. Fully grown adults would momentarily forget their own names in the heat of the moment. Security teams who had once managed to control riots and protests found themselves completely overwhelmed. Not by any weapon or force, but by teenage girls driven forward by nothing more than pure, raw emotion. To really understand why this kept happening, you have to stop picturing him as just another singer, and instead start seeing him as something the world had genuinely never encountered before. Let's take a moment to look back at Munich in 1997. Michael was right in the middle of a performance during the History Tour when, out of nowhere, he did something completely unplanned. Reaching out into the crowd, he pulled a young woman up onto the stage with him. For just a brief second, she seemed completely unaware of what was actually happening. But then the realization hit her all at once. She rushed toward him and fell into his arms, crying so intensely that her entire body was shaking. She wasn't smiling or waving to the cameras like most people might. Instead, she clung to him tightly, almost as if she were afraid that letting go would make the whole moment disappear forever. Security staff attempted to gently pull her back, but she simply refused to move. Michael, for his part, didn't push her away either. He held her steady and patient, almost as though he had witnessed this exact kind of reaction happen 100 times before, and in all likelihood, he probably had. A reaction that intense might sound extreme to some, but with the king of pop, it really wasn't unusual at all. In fact, it was almost something people had come to expect.
Michael Jackson's house was pretty accessible to fans. Now, I lived in the hills above Havenhurst, and I had to pass by that house every day to get to my house. So every day I passed by that house, and I saw fans camping out every single day, holding signs, tents, sleeping bags, signs, memorabilia. This was my entire childhood that I would see this. I've spent a lot of time, like even before this movie was coming out, trying to explain to my kids how they just don't understand the level of fame that Michael Jackson had, because it just does not exist today.
Back in 1983, James Brown was right in the middle of a performance at the Beverly Theater when he happened to spot a 24-year-old Michael Jackson sitting in the audience. And in this instance, even someone who was already very familiar with fame himself couldn't manage to stay fully composed once he noticed Michael was there. During a performance of Earth Song on that very same tour, Michael was raised high above the stage using a mechanical crane. Somehow, one fan managed to break through every barrier and get past every guard, climbing straight up the metal framework in an effort to reach him. In a situation where most performers would have panicked or reacted with fear, Michael instead reached out and physically kept the man steady and in place until security personnel were able to safely bring him back down. He didn't scream. He didn't freeze. He just kept the man steady, almost like he understood the impulse behind it rather than seeing it as a threat, and waited calmly for security to take over and bring the situation to a safe end. Right in the middle of his own live performance, while suspended high in the air, he paused everything just to keep a complete stranger from falling. And at other times, his fans didn't even need him to move at all to feel that same overwhelming reaction. Back in 1992 in Bucharest, more than 70,000 people had crowded into the National Stadium to see him. When Michael finally walked out onto the stage, he didn't dance, and he didn't sing either. He simply stood there, completely motionless, for almost a full 2 minutes. That alone was the entire moment. And yet, even before that, paramedics were already carrying people out on stretchers. while girls in the crowd screamed until their voices literally cracked from the strain. Not a single instrument had even been touched at that point. His stillness by itself was enough to completely overwhelm an entire stadium full of people. And that remarkable kind of power wasn't limited only to strangers in the crowd. It extended just as powerfully to his fellow performers as well. This same pattern kept showing up again and again in the most unexpected places. At the MTV Video Music Awards back in 2001, NSYNC had just wrapped up a completely flawless performance. Then Michael walked out onto the stage, struck his signature pose, and simply stood there without moving for 30 seconds straight. Justin Timberlake's expression alone said absolutely everything in that moment. The entire audience shifted almost instantly from excited energy to something that felt closer to quiet reverence.
It wasn't.
In 2006, Michael made an unannounced appearance on the set of a Japanese television show, showing up right in the middle of rehearsals for the boy band SMAP. These were experienced, seasoned entertainers, the kind of men who had interviewed world leaders and performed in front of millions of people. Yet despite all that experience, one of them dropped straight down to the floor in shock. Others grabbed onto each other, seemingly unable to believe what they were seeing. Within just a matter of seconds, these professional television hosts had turned into nothing more than starstruck teenagers.
The pattern
phenomenon wasn't confined only to massive stages and large audiences either. Michael's genuine kindness toward everyday, ordinary people is really what made his fans love him on such a deep level. Back in 1994, there was a young boy in Hungary named Bela Farkas who urgently needed a liver transplant that his family simply couldn't afford. Michael quietly stepped in and paid for the entire surgery himself, without ever issuing a press release or making any kind of public announcement about it. Later on, he even went to visit the boy in person, purely out of care, just to see how he was doing. No cameras were invited along for that visit. The story only became known afterward, shared by the people who had actually witnessed it firsthand.
This is Lisa Marie and myself at a hospital in Budapest. And I saw this little kid. His name was Farkas. He was very sick. He was green in the face, but he had this glow and this sparkle in his eye. I asked this nurse, what's wrong with this kid? She said that he needs a liver. So I said, does that mean he's gonna die? She said, yes, he's gonna die unless he gets a liver. I said, I'm not gonna let him die, this sweet, sweet angel. No matter what it takes, I'm gonna find a liver for him. So I sent my organization around the world.
The backstage meet and greet sessions during the Bad Tour reveal an even more emotional side of this story. Fans who had been fortunate enough to win the rare opportunity to meet him would walk toward the room feeling composed, having carefully rehearsed exactly what they intended to say to him. But then the door would open, and every single rehearsed line would completely vanish from their minds. Some of them collapsed to the floor before they had even managed to reach him. Others burst into tears the very second they laid eyes on his face. Michael would respond by kneeling down, gently lifting them up, and holding them close, remaining patient every single time, almost as though he truly understood exactly what they were feeling inside.
The highest A class.
As far as cautiousness and being alert and musicianship, you guys are wonderful. I really say the same for wardrobe and technology. They made a couple of mistakes. You were great, Wish. This is your fault. I just said, okay.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we're gonna get out of us. Okay.
That same warmth carried right into his own home as well. Some rare footage from Neverland Ranch shows Michael driving around the property in a golf cart. Fans had gathered right outside the gates, simply hoping to catch a glimpse of him. But rather than just waving from a distance, Michael instead grabbed some water balloons and tossed them right over the fence at the crowd below. None of it was staged, and none of it was performed for effect. It was simply Michael being playful and light-hearted with people who genuinely loved him, all while no cameras were even supposed to be rolling at that moment.
Rolling at all.
We were signing water balloons. He had me signing water balloons, and he was throwing these balloons at the fans on the balcony. They loved it. They wanted more. They were asking for more.
But Max throwing it.
So I was signing these balloons, and he kept throwing them.
This balloon is autographed!
I'm signing them, he's throwing them, and that's what we did.
While in the
Backstage-
Ivory Coast, he was formally welcomed with the honorary title of tribal chief, dressed in traditional ceremonial robes and addressed with a kind of respect given to royalty. According to witnesses, the sheer scale of that welcome moved him to tears. Throughout his career, he had been referred to as the King of Pop countless times. But in that particular moment, that title finally felt genuinely real to him.
You know me. The one thing I can tell you is you got to be free.
This
The scene-
overwhelming effect he had on people wasn't limited only to concerts or organized fan clubs either. When he landed in Gabon, in the Ivory Coast, back in 1992, millions of people lined the roads to see him, with some of them walking for hours on end just for the chance to catch a brief glimpse of his car passing by.
À 19h30, la super vedette américaine s'est rendue à la primature.
Not even academic settings turned out to be immune to this kind of reaction. In 2001, Oxford University invited Michael to deliver a serious speech focused on child welfare. He arrived using crutches after having injured his foot. You might expect a room full of professors and students to remain calm and composed under these circumstances. But instead, the reaction there was every bit as loud and intense as any arena concert. That night, he went on to deliver one of the most deeply personal speeches of his entire life, speaking openly about his own childhood experiences and the importance of protecting children everywhere.
Alles, was ich wollte, war ein Papa. Bei diesen Worten brach Michael Jackson vor rund 500 Studenten der Oxford Universität in Tränen aus. Zuneigung und Liebe, was ihm immer gefehlt hat, gibt er nun mit seiner Kinderwohlfahrt Heal the Kids weiter und will weltweit Erwachsene auf die kleinen Seelen aufmerksam machen. Und für diese Botschaft ist ihm der Weg nach London selbst mit gebrochenem Fuß nicht so weit gewesen. Jackson kam ohne gewohnten Mundschutz und wirkte blass und zerbrechlich.
Es ist eigentlich ganz egal, was Michael Jackson macht. Alle wollen es sehen. Gestern humpelt er in die Oxford-Universität. Viel Presse, aber nur exklusive 400 Gäste durften hören, was Michael zu sagen hatte.
These extraordinary scenes weren't confined to concert halls alone either. In 2001, Michael made a surprise appearance at the Virgin Megastore in Times Square to help promote his new album. Within just minutes, thousands of fans flooded into the surrounding streets, pressing themselves right up against the store windows simply to catch a glimpse of him signing autographs inside. Times Square, after all, is one of the busiest places anywhere on Earth, constantly packed with lights, screens, and noise all competing for people's attention every single second of the day. And yet, somehow, one man sitting quietly at a table managed to become the only thing that anyone in that entire crowd could focus on.
Pandemonium, to say the least, and for one reason only, the king of pop is here. The biggest selling artist in the history of music. TRL welcomes Michael Jackson.
That's your favorite part.
So then, why exactly did people react this way to just one single man? Part of the explanation certainly comes down to the music, the dancing, and the sheer, massive scale of his fame. But eyewitnesses, bodyguards, and staff members who spent years working closely around him often point to something else that stood out even more. He paid close attention to individual people, not just to the crowd as a whole. He remembered people's names. He noticed the person quietly standing at the edge of the barrier, not only the loudest voice shouting from the middle of the crowd. That kind of personal attention, coming from someone as famous as he was, felt almost impossible to imagine. And it made people feel like they were truly, genuinely seen.
Years ago, we went to the music store, but I stayed in the car while he went into the store.
How long ago?
Oh God, we were young. It was maybe around just after Thriller or Off the Wall, maybe Off the Wall, I think. He went into the music store and I stayed in the car. And he came back to the car running and I was just laughing and I looked at him and his shirt was red. And he says, "Dump, we gotta get out of here," and everything, his clothes were ripped. And I was cracking up laughing. I thought it was so funny because you want that time of doing things on your own and just not having security always with you, and you can't. It's unfortunate.
A year prior to that, at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, a legendary venue that has hosted iconic performers for nearly a century, Michael made a surprise appearance as headliner for a fundraiser event. The Apollo crowd has always been known for being notoriously difficult to impress, rarely offering standing ovations without putting up something of a fight first. But the moment Michael stepped out onto that stage, the tough, hard-to-please audience abandoned any attempt at staying composed. What followed was pure, instant chaos, the good kind of chaos, the kind that only he ever seemed capable of creating.
Losing Michael Jackson is a great loss. He's one of the greatest artists of all times. I learned to dance off of Michael. I did the Michael Jackson talent show. Go ahead.
No performer working today manages to create quite that same kind of reaction. Plenty of stars have enormous followings behind them, but very few of them, if any, could make an entire stadium collapse into tears simply by standing there still. Michael Jackson didn't just perform for his fans in the ordinary sense. He made each of them feel as though they genuinely mattered to him on a personal level, even while standing in a crowd made up of thousands of other people. And that particular feeling is exactly what so many people ended up carrying with them for the rest of their lives afterward. So, if you had just one single minute to meet Michael Jackson face to face, what do you think you would have said to him in that moment? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please take a moment to hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories just like this one.